If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello, my name is Spencer, and in my podcast called The Dictionary, I literally read from the dictionary, but add in my personal comments and stupid jokes to make it more interesting. Episodes are family-friendly, short, and air every single day on basically every podcast platform. Come join me on this journey filled with edutainment.
Hello and welcome to How Did This Not Get Made?
This is the podcast all about the movies you never saw, the scripts that were never filmed, and the ideas that never even made it to the page. My name is David Spencer.
And my name is Daniel Kaka.
Well, now that we have saved Star Wars, assuming that our release order is the same as our record order,
Sure.
Which I never really thought about until just this moment. Is our release order generally the same as our record order?
Typically, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Learn something new every day. We record these so far in advance that it's like by the time they're released, I've forgotten 99% of the episode.
Yeah. There's just so much happening behind the scenes. Like, I don't mind constantly working on the podcast, but something that I don't want to do is say, like we did with the Weird Alphabet, be editing the episode the night of because we couldn't record until the Sunday before the Monday. Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to avoid that conflict altogether. I've learned from my mistakes. So that's the reason why we record months ahead of time.
Months in advance.
Yes.
For anybody trying to make a podcast out there, record as far in advance as you can.
Yes. If you're starting it off, don't just record one, edit one, put it out there, because then people are going to expect the next one. No, just stockpile like 5 of them. That gives you a good buffering time. Even TV shows, they do this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like TV shows, this is how they plan it out. Like with every season of television, I mean, they don't record the full season ahead of time. Usually they'll do about half of the show and then start premiering it. And then they start to like back up and then release them in order.
Absolutely.
We are talking about 2 different IPs here. We're talking about 21 Jump Street and we're talking about Men in Black.
Yes.
So if you've read the title of the episode, you may have seen that we are doing a crossover of the 2 of them, and they were supposed to cross over into a movie. We'll kind of explain the history behind the 2 of them and then how they almost merged together. But just real quick, I want to know, what is your level of understanding? How much do you know about 21 Jump Street and Men in Black?
I remember seeing the first Men in Black movie. We had it on like DVD or something. I saw it like once. It was one of those movies that, I liked. It was fun. Didn't really have any lasting fond memories of it. And then 21 Jump Street, I remember seeing that in the theaters. Definitely one of the funniest movies of the year. One of the funniest movies, honestly, of the decade. It's up there. It's really good. And then, of course, that was a lot of people's introduction to Lord and Miller and everything that they've done, which has been like whole bunch of awesome stuff. I love Lego Movie. I love Into the Spider-Verse, which they didn't write and direct, but they had a hand in producing. I never saw 22 Jump Street, and I don't think I've even seen Men in Black 2 either. I do remember hearing a little bit of this story as they were announcing things. I remember a lot of film podcasts I listened to talking about how insane of an idea this was. But at the time, this was after Lord and Miller had made their career out of taking projects that should have been terrible and making them great. That was kind of the reputation they were getting. 21 Jump Street had no business being as good as it was. Lego Movie definitely had no business being as good as it was.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of seeing them as like, they're the people who are going to be able to turn shit into gold. It was definitely like, well, this sounds like a terrible idea on paper, but if Lord and Miller have any hand in it, then it's probably going to be great.
Yeah. Let's go through mine. So I remember in high school, I went through like this weird Johnny Depp kick Pirates of the Caribbean came out, but then I started like backtracking through all the stuff that he did, and I realized that he picks up a lot of unique characters, unique acting roles, and I always enjoyed that about his career, is that he isn't just the straight man. He's like we saw it with Pirates of the Caribbean. It wasn't just like he was just a swashbuckling pirate, but he was like this kind of buffoon type character. So I always thought it was interesting the way that he does it. And so I was just going through basically his entire filmography of like anything that he did. And I remember I picked up the first season of 21 Jump Street, and I thought it was interesting, but it's kind of like watching baby Brad Pitt when you see him in Thelma and Louise, where he's not like fully formed yet, but you see like little seeds of what he's trying to do when he first started his career. I thought it was interesting. It didn't really stand out to me as one of his standout roles, but I know that 21 Jump Street is really the thing that jump-started his career. Obviously, I watched the movie later on. Again, that was hilarious. I still think that my favorite part is Channing Tatum just like up on the whiteboard, figuring out the math problem.
One particle of unobtainium has a nuclear reaction with a flux capacitor. Carry the two, changing its atomic isotoner into a radioactive spider. Fuck you, science!
And it's just a wall just full of like fours or something. It's the same number written over and over and over again.
I remember that. Oh, man. That whole drug trip sequence is so good.
It's so well done.
I think one of the big things that made that movie so memorable is it's kind of like commentary on how culture had shifted as to what's popular and what's lame, and and how it like does the thing of putting Jonah Hill's character as the popular kid and Channing Tatum as the one who isn't, and like that kind of fun twist on social relationships definitely made the movie stand out as well.
Oh yeah. And then as far as Men in Black, I honestly think I've seen every Men in Black movie in theaters. But I remember seeing the first one and just loving it. I loved the first Men in Black. And
what year did the first one come out?
That one came out in 97.
Yeah, I would have been too young for that when it came out.
Yeah, I think it hit me right at the perfect time where I was like I could be easily influenced by many things, but I just...
Very impressionable age.
Yeah, I was 8 years old. I remember watching it. I don't know if it was in theaters or not, but I remember watching it, and the scene that like stuck out to me and what made me enjoy this movie was like how Will Smith approached it, and you could like kind of feel for him in a way where they do the training sequence and they're like shooting down all of the aliens, and there is Will Smith, and he just hesitates to shoot anyone, and then he sees a little girl and directly shoots her in the head. This is the cutout little girl. He doesn't actually shoot a little girl, but he shoots the cutout of the little girl, and they're like,
Edwards, what the hell happened?
Hesitated.
May I ask why you felt little Tiffany deserved to die?
Well, she was the only one that actually seemed dangerous at the time, sir.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
Well, first I was going to pop this guy hanging from the street light, and then I realized, he's just working out. And how would I feel if somebody come running in the gym, bust me in my ass while I'm on a treadmill? Then I saw this snarling beast guy, and I noticed he had a tissue in his hand. I realized, he's not snarling. He's sneezing. Ain't no real threat there. Then I saw little Tiffany. I'm thinking, 8-year-old white girl, middle of the ghetto, bunch of monsters, this time of night with quantum physics books. She about to start some shit, Zed. She's about 8 years old. Those books are way too advanced for her. If you ask me, I say she's up to something.
And I thought it was really interesting. And that whole movie kind of has that tone to it. And it's like that scene perfectly embodies the entire movie, that not everything is what it seems.
Yeah.
What seems innocent isn't what is, or what doesn't seem innocent probably is innocent. And I thought that was a really interesting contrast that they introduced in the movie. So I absolutely loved and adored that film.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we experience these IPs. Let's go through the history of it and see where this all came from. So the 21 Jump Street pilot aired April 12th, 1987. It was created by Patrick Hansberg and Stephen J. Cannell. Prior to the show, they worked on Hardcastle and McCormick and the A-Team.
Hardcastle?
Yeah.
That's quite the title. That's very 80s.
Very 80s, team up, shoot 'em up type TV show. Yeah.
I have seen a bunch of A-Team, though.
Oh, I actually haven't watched much of A-Team.
I remember being in high school and the big box set of that show came out on DVD, and my mom was really into a lot of TV shows that era. We had a bunch of DVDs of the A-Team and Get Smart and Hogan's Heroes. I definitely watched a bunch of that era of television.
Huh. That is actually pretty interesting. We kind of all go through that phase where we go through like a weird or old TV show that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
As a kid, I would watch Flipper, Zorro, and Lassie. They were all black and white shows. I think they were just like afternoon reruns on Disney Channel. But I remember like adamantly watching these television shows. It's so weird to like think back on that, to think like I found that very entertaining.
Now that I think about it, I think Hogan's Heroes is earlier show than those two, because I remember the first season of Hogan's Heroes is black and white, and then the rest of that is in color. The reason that my whole family is really into that show is because the main character is Colonel Hogan, and that is literally my uncle's name. His last name is Hogan, and he is a colonel, or was a colonel.
Huh. Any relation to the story, or just like...
No, well, the actual show is about prisoners of war in World War II in a Nazi camp.
Oh, yeah, that's spot on with your uncle.
Yep. It's a funny, lighthearted show about prisoners of war in a Nazi prison camp.
Right. Back to 21 Jump Street. So the show focused on a group of younger-looking police officers who would pass as teenagers to work undercover in high schools and occasionally colleges to investigate drug trafficking and abuse. The name 21 Jump Street refers to the address of the headquarters, a desecrated church building. At first, the name of the show was titled 20 Street Chapel, but Fox requested to change the name so that audiences wouldn't be confused and think this is a religious show. At the time, Fox Network was actually brand new, having started a year before in 1986. This show, along with Married with Children and The Tracy Ullman Show, made Fox Network a staple in television. The show is probably best known for boosting the career of the then 24-year-old Johnny Depp, who recently debuted in A Nightmare on Elm Street and had two leading roles in the films Private Resort and Thrashin'. He also had a minor role in Platoon.
Oh, I don't remember that. It's been a long time since I've seen Platoon, though.
I remember watching Platoon and I was like, oh, that's Baby Depp. The series lasted for 5 seasons with a total of 103 episodes and spawned a spin-off series, Booker, which didn't make it past its first season. Booker didn't really have much of a chance, seeing that Depp and Justin Nguyen left 21 Jump Street after the 4th season. That season, the show nearly got canceled for the first time, and then in the 5th season, they weren't canceled, but they actually moved away from the Fox network.
Now, I was always under the impression it was like serialized storytelling with like a continuous story of them in one high school, and big part of the plot line being like getting in too deep, kind of like what happens in the movie. But do you know if it was like every episode was kind of standalone?
Yeah, it was more like the monster of the week of like, here's
Gotcha,
the mystery, figure out the mystery, take down the perp.
All right.
Moving on to the Men in Black. So at first, it was actually a comic. It was originally published by Aircel Comics, who was then bought by Malibu Comics, which then in the mid-90s was acquired by Marvel Comics. So technically, Men in Black are Marvel superheroes. So put them in the MCU, you cowards.
Yeah. That's the way to deal with Thanos' invasion. It's just the Men in Black come in.
Perfect.
And wipe everybody's memory?
Yeah. The comic book was created and written by Lowell Cunningham and illustrated by Sandy Carruthers. Under Aircel Comics, they published a 3-issue series that ran from January 1990 to March of the same year. Soon after, Malibu Comics bought the company, and they came out with a second 3-issue series that ran from May to July of 1991. In 1994, Marvel bought out Malibu. The series remained dormant until after the film, based on the IP, was released in 1997. After that, Marvel then released a number of one-off issues, a prequel, a sequel, a movie adaptation, and a reprint of the Aircel issues. Although the movie primarily focused on aliens, the comic explored other phenomena like demons, mutants, zombies, werewolves, vampires, legendary creatures, and other paranormal beings. They did keep the idea that the agency is a secret to the world and was responsible for wiping the memory of any humans they interacted with. The main characters in the comics were Z, J, K, and X. When adapted for the film, J and K were then changed to Agent J and Agent K. In the comics, J was depicted as white, which then changed after Will Smith was cast for the role.
Will Smith was everywhere at this time. This is like peak Will Smith era.
This was right before Wild Wild West, but during the time that he was coming out with a new rap song for every movie that he did.
Yes, that's right. Even though I've never seen Wild Wild West, I always associate Men in Black with Wild Wild West in my brain.
Yeah. I always think of the Burger King Rodeo Burger, which I have an interesting story about that, which I told on the Weird Alphabet. I don't remember what episode it was. If anyone wants to go through that catalog, sure. There's over 250 episodes.
Somebody tell us. Remind us when we talked about the Wild Wild West burger.
So 1992 was the year that Walter F. Parks and Laurie McDonald optioned the rights for the Men in Black before Marvel bought the comic. Now, they hired Ed Solomon to write the script. Now, Ed Solomon, he wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey, Leaving Normal, Mom and Dad Save the World, Super Mario Bros., and then later would write Charlie's Angels, Now You See Me 1 and 2, and Bill and Ted Face the Music. At first, Barry Sonnenfeld was asked to direct the film after they saw his work with The Addams Family and Addams Family Values, but wasn't available because he was slated to direct Get Shorty. The producers then approached Miracle on 34th Street director Les Mayfield to take on the film, but later they didn't want Mayfield to take on the movie after seeing the remake of Miracle on 34th Street. So they waited till Sonnenfeld was available to actually direct the film. Right away, Sonnenfeld made a major change to the initial script. In the first draft, the agents were mostly underground, working in locations like Kansas, Washington, D.C., and Nevada. Instead, he made the central location New York City, as this would be the one few cities that would accept aliens' odd behavior. I thought that was brilliant.
That makes sense. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but I feel like there's kind of like a Ellis Island style immigrant theme to the story where these aliens, most of them aren't harmful and are just trying to find a place to live. And so it totally makes sense to set that kind of thing in New York City, where you have every different culture from all over the world just trying to cohabitate in this one space.
Yeah, we kind of experienced that in Los Angeles as well. You get on the expo line, someone's acting kind of weird, and instead of just like gawking at it the whole time, you're just like, well, that's just Los Angeles for you.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a brilliant move right there. And that way they don't have to make all these extra sets and settings to be like, we're going to be underground. But instead we're just like, you know what? They can hide in plain sight and it's the perfect place for them to be.
Yeah.
Back to 21 Jump Street. So the script for that movie, it was written by Joe Gazam. He was floating around the script in Hollywood, but wasn't picking up much traction until it fell into the hands of Jonah Hill, who then rewrote the script and then sold that to Sony Pictures. In May 2008, it was confirmed that the film adaptation of 21 Jump Street would be made with Jonah Hill as an executive producer and as the lead of the film. At first, Jonah Hill wanted Rob Zombie to direct the movie, claiming that he would understand the tone of it being an R-rated, insane Bad Boys Meet John Hughes type movie. So on December 21st, 2009, Sony officially announced that the director would be Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the directors of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. The film was not to be interpreted as a reboot, but as a continuation of the series, as if the agency continued from the early 90s, which then made it possible to have cameos for the show's lead actors, Johnny Depp and Peter DeLuise.
Which is a great touch. In this time where we are rebooting all these nostalgic properties from the past, the way 21 Jump Street does it, I think, is really the smart way to do it, where it's something that tries to reboot the idea without necessarily rebooting the characters.
Yes. So we're going to fast forward to 2014. Men in Black, they've come out with 2 more films in 2002 and 2012, and they also had an animated series that lasted from 1997 to 2001.
Men in Black 3 was 2012. That's the one with Josh Brolin, right?
Yes, it is. 21 Jump Street was such a success, it spawned a sequel, 22 Jump Street, which was released in 2014. Later that year, with the anticipation of The Interview to hit the theaters, the Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg film about a journalist set up to assassinate the leader of North Korea, it was revealed that Sony Pictures was hacked. Now, the attack was thought to be a threat against the company in retaliation for making the film. That is not fully confirmed.
It wasn't confirmed North Korea did the hack. They did take credit for it, though, if I remember.
Yes.
But that also doesn't necessarily mean anything. This could have just been a thing that happened, and then they were like, oh, that was us. That was us.
Yeah.
Fear us.
See, this
Be
is why
scared.
you don't mess with us. But yeah, the leak did reveal personal information of employees and their families, emails, executive salaries, plans for future films, and scripts of future and unmade movies, which is how this leak came out, which is how we now know of the potential crossover of Men in Black and 21 Jump Street.
This was a detail I definitely don't remember. I didn't realize that it was something that leaked out. I thought it was something that they were announcing and talking about, but...
No one wanted this out because no one really had a plan of it. But right there on the title page, it was going to be called MIB 23. The leak revealed that Rodney Rothman, who wrote 21 and 22 Jump Street, was hired to write the script with James Bowden to direct. Now, James Bowden, he did The Muppets and a few episodes of Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Yeah. The project seemed to be promising until 2016 when it was revealed that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum was on board for the film, but Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith were not and had committed to other films they were working on, such as Jason Bourne and Suicide Squad. As far as the actual script getting leaked, I could not find that in my research, but according to Jonah Hill, when he pitched the idea, he said the story would revolve around, quote, Will Smith's Agent J and Tommy Lee Jones' Agent K would be replaced by younger actors. So if you're going to blame anyone for this, it's Jonah Hill. He's the guy who put this together. According to Jonah Hill, when interviewed by the Toronto Sun, quote, it's too complicated. They're trying to make all the deals, but it's kind of impossible with all the Men in Black stuff. The Jump Street films were so fun to make, and the whole joke of them was making fun of mistakes and sequels and reboots. Now it's become a giant sequel and reboot. It's almost become what it's making fun of, and it's hard to maintain that joke when the stakes are so high. Another reason why the idea was rejected was partially because the Men in Black franchise lives in a PG-13 world, whereas the 21 Jump Street world lives in an R-rated universe. So having to combine those, that would mean that Men in Black would now become potentially an R-rated movie, something that the first three movies did not adhere to.
Yeah.
In January of 2019, it was officially announced that the movie was canceled. Instead, we got the Men in Black International. The idea of the fourth Men in Black movie was in talks since the third film was released in 2012. This seems to be a separate story unrelated to Men in Black. It does seem like oddly convenient that this movie was very self-aware, very much so like the 21 Jump Street films.
It's Henry.
Yeah, you look like a Henry.
Good. That's all I've got.
I'm Steve.
Yep, Steve. I thought you said pawns didn't have names.
We don't. I was just feeling left out.
Oh, Steve.
So there may be some influence from this potential merger to be like, we should just make Men in Black funny.
Yeah.
And that's how we came out with that.
So wait, am I getting this right? That Jonah Hill was the one who initially pitched this movie?
Yes.
That's so wild. Oh my gosh. It would have to be somebody with massive star power to convince anybody that this was not just a good idea, but like an idea. That this was something worth hiring a writer for, or worth talking about so much that it ended up in the Sony leaks. I feel like if it was anybody else, there wouldn't even be an email out there about this.
But the thing is that with Jonah Hill making the first 21 Jump Street, when it was being first shopped around, it just seemed as if like this was nothing or it was just a reboot. No one was paying any attention to it until Jonah Hill got a hold of it, rewrote it, and was like, guys, we can actually make this good. And Sony was like, oh, we'll take a stab at it. Turns out it actually was a good movie. So they're just like, he can't be wrong. He had something before. He's got to have something now.
This is something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize, how there's a lot of movies that only exist because the actor found the script and said, I want to do this. Like, that's the reason that Drive got made, is that Ryan Gosling was like, I want to change my image and I want to be able to do these dramatic movies and these, I don't want to just be the rom-com lead anymore. I want to do something different. And so made Drive based off of that. I mean, a more recent example, Venom 2 probably would have never been made if Tom Hardy hadn't been so in love with that character and making these movies. And he has a massive hand in a lot of the creative decisions of the new Venom movie because Tom Hardy just got really invested.
Yeah. Something to look for when you're looking at movies and TV shows, whenever you see the actor as the executive producer, it really shows that actor really and truly believes in that product. If you watch Breaking Bad, you may notice that Bryan Cranston, instead of just being an actor, eventually becomes a producer and executive producer for the show because he truly believed in that show.
Absolutely. And then you get people like Brad Pitt just producing movies that he's not even a part of.
Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are both doing the same thing.
Yeah. I think Brad Pitt has multiple Oscars for movies that won Best Picture that he was a producer on and never appears in.
There's a lot of actors who are here for the film industry. They want to make good stuff, and they realize when they have a better position if they're in the producing chair rather than in front of the camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Back to the 21 Jump Street franchise. So is there going to be a 23 Jump Street? So maybe. Instead, according to Phil Lord, there will be a 24 Jump Street first, and reserving the idea for the 23 Jump Street to potentially have a female spinoff.
Okay.
The comments he made were so vague, and the details of the movies have not been confirmed. There haven't been any cast announcements for this, and Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, they have not confirmed if they're coming back or even if this is in pre-production. Again, this is just one of those like loose interviews where they just ask the director like, hey, is there going to be a sequel? And Phil Lord just saying like, if the studio allows it, I'll do it.
We definitely run into it with this podcast. There's so many movies that exist purely as things that the filmmaker brings up in interviews, but there is like zero actual work being done on them.
It's not even the filmmakers. I think the problem is the interviewers. They associate that person with a certain franchise, with a certain movie.
Absolutely.
And of course, you're going to ask that question, and they don't want to say no to it because it could actually happen, but they're not going to say, yes, it's going to happen without the studio's approval. So they kind of have to hit this middle ground. The problem is that after they say maybe, it's reported on as like, this is a future project that they're going to work on. And I absolutely despise those clickbait articles saying like,
blank confirmed.
Yeah, I hate those interviews because they're nothing. They don't go anywhere. It doesn't confirm anything. And no one's following up on this afterwards. So when I wrote that down with that in mind, so it's, don't expect a 23 Jump Street, you guys.
But that Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy definitely still happening.
Yes, it is. It is for sure. So here's just my little speculation. If Men in Black are willing to continue the franchise with the perspective of different agents, and 21 Jump Street can have different agents as well, I don't see a problem in the fact that they could cross over, and you don't need a Will Smith.
You don't need any of those actors.
No, you don't need Tommy Lee Jones. You don't need Channing Tatum or Jonah Hill. You don't need any of that. Just as long as the two agencies exist and you put them in the same universe, you can still make this happen.
Wait a minute. I got to back up again because I realized you said we didn't have a copy of the script. Do we even know anything about what the story would have been? What's the story to this? Are there aliens that are infiltrating a high school and so you need both the Men in Black and 21 Jump Street to investigate it?
If it's the younger versions of it...
Do they need to go and investigate an alien high school? So they all have to go and pretend to be alien teenagers.
Here's my guess. My guess is that prior to, they were 21 Jump Street agents investigating something in a high school, not realizing that they were investigating aliens. And then the actual Men in Black step in, realize what they've uncovered, and then they erase their memory from there. So they don't realize that what they've uncovered, but they have that agent training. But somewhere in the back of Will Smith's mind, Agent J's mind, he has the sense to find aliens and recognize aliens, but doesn't know where this came from, which then leads to the first movie when he shoots the cutout of the little girl. It's always been in there, but they didn't fully erase his memory, but he doesn't remember what happened. So that's what it is. It's a prequel to all of this. It works perfectly.
Yeah. I think that's one of the other big reasons why, like, the story was just so buck wild when details were first coming out, because it's like, what is that movie? It's hard to imagine what that movie is, but I really like your pitch that it's like a secret prequel.
Yeah. That's it for the potential Men in Black 21 Jump Street movie.
Man, Men in Black 21 Jump Street. It also makes me try to just imagine other franchise crossovers that you would never expect. Like, I'm trying to think of what's something that would be on par with that. I mean, it's probably something like, what would be funny to combine with Fast and Furious? Fast and Furious is a massive franchise. What's something that we can pair with Fast and Furious? I know they basically already have Transporter meets Fast and Furious.
Wait.
It's with, what's his face?
Wait, you say Transporter or
I said Transporter.
Oh, Transporter.
But now, let's do that. Transformers meets Fast and Furious.
Transformers
that actually
meets
would
Fast and the
work.
Furious.
That would really work.
Yes.
That would work.
Because they've gone into space in 9.
Mm-hmm.
So why not push it even further?
Yeah, why not have them driving things that turn into robots?
Yeah.
I don't have friends. I got family.
It's been an honor serving with you all. Autobots, roll out! We roll.
Oh man, if they were part of it and kind of like they became mech suits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is how you do it.
Transformers need Fast and Furious. That's the next thing. Fast and Furious 10's former.
Yeah, the whole movie just writes itself. So get on it, you guys. We are giving you basically an idea for free money.
Yes, 100%. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I guess that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Just got to say, we're recording this the day of our season 3 premiere. Seeing all the downloads we've been getting has been awesome. And I'm so happy that everybody has stuck around and kept us in your feed for this seasonal show. And I'm really excited for what you all have to listen to.
Yeah.
If you want to find more episodes of this podcast, you can go to our website, pipedreampodcast.com, where you can also find our other shows such as Come On Fahugwapods, Escape from Vault Disney, and the Mystery Shack Look Back. You can find us on social media. We're on Twitter at HDTNGM. We're on Instagram at How Did This Not Get Made. You can send us your emails, notgetmade@gmail.com. Send us your suggestions, your corrections, or your franchise combination pitches.
Yes.
We also have a Patreon page, and we are super thankful to everybody who helps out our Patreon. Go check it out for some cool rewards, such as special monthly bonus recordings, access to Dan's notes, all of that jazz. You can find that link at our website, once again, pipedreampodcasts.com. That's going to go ahead and wrap us up for today. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening.
Thank you.